This is one podcast I have been looking forward to forever now.
Try to, keep myself busy, learning new things all the time, basically.
There's so many ways in which we can find benefits.
Welcome to the BIM Student Podcast. In this podcast, we talk to leaders, followers, innovators, and adopters from our AEC industry. Like a student, I ask questions that we all wanted to ask on our digital transformation journey, but never actually did. I explore concept, products, ideas, and future possibilities in digital transformation space. Each week, I meet with an amazing guest from the industry. I look forward to learn something new, share new experiences, thoughts, and opinions, and how to make BIM journey better for everybody across the board.
Ever since I started this podcast, I have talked to many professionals about their experience and their BIM adoption journey. Some of those were project designers and consultants, while some of them were general and specialized contractors. I realized many times there's a lot of communication gap between the ones who use the technology to design and the ones who use the technology to construct. So I thought, why not to bring both of them together on this platform and address some of the common concerns I've heard from both sides. So I invited two professionals, one from GC side and one from consultant side, and want to see who's slaying their BIM game better and what exactly are the hindrances in the path of collaboration and technology adoption. I will be talking to Yigit Karanfil, Design Technology Lead from InStudio, and Shawn Lamrock, Team Lead VDC, Construction Operations at Pomerleau. Welcome to my podcast, Yigit and Shawn. I'm so glad finally, after I think so many back and forth, we're able to do it. This is one podcast I have been looking forward to forever now. How are you guys doing?
I'll go first, I guess. Thanks for having me again. Happy to be here. Yes, we both had to, get our post-COVID vacations after not traveling for 2 years. But yeah, happy to be back in Toronto and back in the podcast.
Yeah, I share the same sentiments. It's great to see you guys again outside of work, and it's also great to hear that some people took some time, whether it was on purpose or by accident, to take care of that part before we meet up. So I'm really excited to also be here and see everyone again, and everyone's healthy. So that's great.
We planned this podcast in spring and now it's summer. What are you guys up to this summer? What is happening? Let's go with Yigit first.
I built a deck, so I'm hoping to have some barbecues over there in the summer. As far as work goes, as you know, I have a new job, basically, a slightly different position. So just getting my bearings and setting things up there. So far, so good. It's been pretty great, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just enjoying the new place and the position, and just digging into things and trying to see what I can automate and where can we get some efficiencies, the usual.
Great. And what are you up to, Shawn? I know you were on vacation, a long one.
Yeah, I mean, not crazy too long, but enough of a chance to explore the world a bit. Definitely always love to travel. Great chance to learn and experience different things in this huge world that we have to explore. Of course, doing some things around the house. I think like everyone, kind of hitting up that to-do list in the house to kind of make sure it's good for the summer. No different than eat. Just to make sure that I'm trying to catch up with friends and get outside and, get by the water. I like being on the water, going for hikes with friends. A lot of friends bring dogs, so dogs always make life better as well. So that part is always great in the summer. And then work's work. Summertime is busy time for construction. So there's never going to be a shortage of tasks to do or people to help or phone calls to answer. But ultimately just trying to live a healthy life in the summer and get outside as much as possible when I'm not at the computer. That's really the objective, and try to really stay active as much as possible.
Great. So coming to work, I've introduced you guys a little bit earlier, but let's go through a formal round of introductions. What does Yigit do for a living? And except breathing, and what does Shawn do as a day job? Let's start with Yigit.
So currently I am the design technology lead for In Studio. We're a mid-sized interior design company in Toronto. My job in general is, in addition to BIM management, just searching and bringing any useful technologies to the company, training people, finding new and better ways to work. Anything that impacts our design process that technology can help with basically is under my responsibility. Anything from art designs, visualizations, project management, pretty much everything.
That is awesome. And what does Shawn do as a day job?
What does Shawn do as a day job? It's a great question. I work out of the Ottawa, Ontario office here in Canada, and lead a team of VDC professionals that ultimately support the most efficient use of tools and processes and implementation standards and protocols to support construction methodologies in the real world. More importantly, to eventually support the real world. That's the ultimate end goal that sometimes we get away from, is like we're actually trying to construct something in real life. So we support that growth of construction digitally to make sure that we ultimately reduce, whether it be clashes, or we can help with the schedule, or we can help someone understand the project better in 3D. There's so many ways in which we can find benefits, really help people and the stakeholders that interact with either our team directly or indirectly when supporting construction projects.
Okay. So you are one of the BIM people in your company, right? I think both of you have had very, very interesting careers. Like, I find it that you guys are like complete package, because Yigit has worked at an engineering company that was H.H. Angus, right? Where you did start with the whole getting into design technology side of things. And with IBI, Dialogue, HOK, you've garnered a lot of experience on the consultant side of affairs, right? And Shawn has worked on consultant side. Now he's working with construction side of affairs. And I have learned a lot from both of you. And personally, like, this is not something I'm saying for the podcast, for saying, I can give all my credit of how to write a BIM execution plan to Shawn, and all the credit of how to manage BIM on a project to Yigit. So you two guys are like also the people I would message if I have a design technology BIM / even life questions. I will message you guys. So you guys have a lot of experience in design technology and construction management, coordination, collaboration. Do you think, have we come a long way where we were, let's say, 2012, 2013, when we initially started our journey at the respective companies that we worked with as design technology specialists? Do you think we guys have come a long way? Technology's come a long way? Let's start with Yigit.
Okay, so when we asked like if we've come a long way, I'd like to think so. I try to keep myself busy learning new things all the time, basically. There is a new technology every day that can solve another problem, and I really feel compelled to keep up with it, because to me that's the job, basically. And I would say the technology itself, like, it's kind of easy to look at how little Revit has improved, for instance, right? Especially compared to the subscription cost. We just keep paying for it. And it's not as bad as Navisworks, but Revit is the dominant kind of authoring software in this industry. Mm-hmm. And there's been some improvements in the last few years, but in general, I think we can all just agree that it's been a bit stale on the development side. So it's kind of easy to look at things like that, or like other large software vendors just not being too competitive and feel a bit cynical about it. But I really do think there's genuine improvements to how we work and what we can do right now. I'm definitely not doing some of the things I used to like 5-8 years ago. Part of it is, I guess, my seniority has kind of progressed, but also I can automate a lot of these things now, right? So there were definitely tasks that would take us like maybe half a day, an entire day, that we can completely eliminate now. There are actually free tools and really good open source projects that are happening. So I would say that tech is developing a bit slowly at this point, but I do see some hope with all the open source developments and some of the tools that we already have access to that has made significant improvements to quality of our work, basically.
And what about you, Shawn? You think from where you started, I know you also had a career with Algonquin College as an instructor, right?
That was a really great point before I graduated. Exactly. So I started my journey watching people like myself, like a year ahead of me, and then as I graduated, they were now students, and watching people break things all the time, and going kind of through those repetitions to help people out, and like you're like, oh, I was just there, I was just breaking things. Like, this is crazy that I can now help people unbreak them or learn how to improve it in a way that doesn't break the computer, doesn't make a warning label pop up to say, hey, please don't do that, or please don't ever do that, depending on the warning, right? So in all intents and purposes, kind of prepares you for life in the VDC role when you get into the office. As a lot of us did, like a good part of our job was helping people and jumping over to people's computers and helping them do this or helping them do that, and doing that within moments notice. So that part was really great. In terms of technology and improving from there after coming into the industry, I kind of see the tools like really not as important as maybe we did in our younger careers. Like, maybe fast forward 5 years later where we're all here talking again, and it's, I kind of like to take a step back, and it's like, ask not what the tool like maybe can do for us, but ask what we can do with the tools for others. And now that we kind of have that 4 or 5 years of experience of not only like warnings from Revit and all these other softwares that we, we're tasked to use, it's really powerful to think about how they all work together. Really, and how should we be using it that way, or should we not be using it that way? Is someone a mad scientist, or did that spark us to maybe think how we should use this tool versus that tool? And like kind of you said, it's a never-ending debate of understanding these tools and understanding what's out there to see, can it actually improve what we're doing, or is it just is it something that's kind of there? So I guess the perspective I take to technology is, I think it's always going to improve, but it's kind of up to us and the people we surround ourselves with to really gauge and, inform ourselves to understand which software is a right decision, and listen to other people's opinions and collect that information and really be responsible with what we do with that information. That's kind of where I'm at when it comes to technology. It's more of a philosophical answer, maybe not a wizardry answer, but that's in short kind of where I'm at when it comes to technology.
I think I will ask a practical question now. And now you said that right now we're at a position that we're not thinking about a tool as what it can do for us, but how can we employ the tool to, work or serve the project. Now, do you feel that at this point of time, technology or specific tools are becoming more of a hindrance than like a facilitator for coordination and collaboration? Or you feel that we got all these amazing tools, but we still need to collaborate and coordinate in the human way? Sometimes some people say, we collaborate better without the technology. Say, for example, architects, they say we do need to collect on a desk and get the design out, or interior designers. Whereas some people say, oh, I'm good, I can just be with my tool and do whatever you ask me to do. So where do you think we are at right now? Is technology being a hindrance, or is it being a facilitator for collaboration and coordination? And Yigit would go first.
Okay, so the argument of technology becoming a hindrance, I mean, okay, I've heard people say before, like, okay, instead of using this tool and documenting things here, I can just walk up to someone's desk and solve this.
Right.
And to that, my response is, you're clearly not doing that. Like, based on this, these design coordination issues I'm seeing in this project. This happened, by the way. Anyway, so I think the point is, I think it's on people like myself, like you, myself, and Shawn, like these kind of technology experts to, first of all, find the right tool for the job and then implement it right? So if a tool is becoming a hindrance, right, it means it's either not the right tool for the job or it is not implemented right. So when I was back in Turkey, actually, a few weeks back, I joined an event as a speaker, and somebody asked me about doing clash detection in Power BI. And my question was, why would you do that? I can see that happening. Like, I mean, you can do it totally, right? You can customize Power BI to do that, but it's like, just use Solibri. You know, there's a tool that's meant to do exactly that. Just use the right tool. You're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah,
I'm just a lot more complicated.
Why would you use a food processor to chop one onion? I wouldn't do that.
I mean, yeah, it's just the other side of this argument is that some tools are definitely more difficult to learn, right? And I can see that people say, like, making claims like this other tool is a hindrance when they're not very well versed in it. And then, yeah, I could just sketch this much faster. But that is a bit short-sighted, I think, because I mean, you have to think about the project in its entirety and maybe even the building's life cycle as a whole, basically, right? So a lot of the tools we have today are definitely more complicated than their counterparts that were used maybe 20, 30 years ago. But they also are a lot more powerful, and they provide us more data and more options to do things. And we had this discussion actually with my coworkers the other day, where they were just saying, like, oh, can you imagine doing a full like set for a 20-story building like 40 years ago by hand? But to that argument, I also said, well, if you look at the drawings from like 40, 50 years ago, they also look a lot more simple, right? We were not producing buildings or drawings that were as complicated as we do now, because it would be seriously just crazy to do this by hand. So I think just looking at that, you can see that, I mean, this is a very simple example, but you can tell that, definitely the digital tools are allowing us to accomplish more complex tasks in a more efficient manner.
What do you think, Shawn? Do you think technology is your best buddy, or it's creating hindrance sometimes if you want to collaborate live?
It's the magic question, right? We have between all three of us we have a lot of responsibility, like, of being we'll call it the gatekeeper of that domain within our roles, right? So that's quite a powerful question. I'm of the believer that it does not hinder, but that will reflect on us of whether that can be successful, and not us solely, more importantly. I look at VDC a lot like like a sports team. So like playing hockey, I look at it as like an ice hockey team, right? So, as the VDC person, you really have to understand like maybe your role on the team, because there's going to be a lot of different people, and being able to pull a lot of people together and build that team. During construction, as we go through a project, you're going to have HVAC experts, you're going to have plumbing experts, you're going to have maybe I'm the technology expert on the project and the software tool and authoring expert and just a lot of different experts on the team. And we have to, as a group, understand that without everyone, we cannot achieve it. Tools are really going to actually be a part of that. So I look at the project and all the stakeholders and the users of software. They are our users, and we're kind of their product owner. And we really need to make sure that, do they have the capabilities right now to learn a technology or a software? Do they need training? Do they need support? Do they need to be, mentored a little bit? Do they need someone to go above and beyond, what someone else may need? Do they need a buddy system, right? Like kindergarten, right? Do they need someone to follow around? You're like, hey, I got to go get my lunch pail. Can you come with me, right? Like, it's not that different. Just knowing sometimes that you have someone right beside you, even though you're not talking to them, sometimes that can also be enough. So I feel technology can be a hindrance. Our responsibility is to set it up for success. And I think from a construction point of view, that's ultimately so important because we go so fast. Like we go so fast in the real world. Models are live. Things are being automated in the background to make sure we're literally spending the most amount of time dealing with things that are going to be real problems to reverse that so that it's a problem in the digital world and resolved in the digital world. And you actually, the person that's swinging the hammer or running a piece of equipment, they're not considering that as something that, is going to hold them up ultimately at the end of the day. So a lot rides on us actually to make sure that, as Yigit said, it's implemented properly, right? You have the different phases of technology, whether it's, we're looking into, what are the pain points of the users, or, what is the implementation process? How are you measuring the implementation process? Are you following up with people? Have you not talked to them in a couple of months? So, there's a lot that goes into the technology side, but ultimately I think the way that we're going, and the way our society is going is we're moving to a digital workflow. We're moving to things where whether Yigit's in another country, I'm in another country, and Chetna, you're in another country, we can still somehow come together to work together, be productive, eliminate waste, eliminate risk to projects, whether it be construction design, or operations and maintenance, and making sure we're providing the highest level of service to that project, because ultimately that's what we're providing. We're providing a service to a set of users that may or may not have expectations of us. So I get excited to make sure that technology can be used well, and we can, report at the end, was it used well or was it not used well? And, it's totally cool if we have lessons learned. That's the whole point. So I think totally eliminating the taboo of, never talking about failures, within our organization. We want to make sure that we highlight these things and talk about them and fix them immediately for the next one. And that's what technology can enable us to do, is to also go through way more information and way more projects. As Yigit said, they're going so much faster, going so much more complex. So without these sophisticated tools and processes to support that, I would be baffled to how we would process everything that we do in our day-to-day. My brain almost actually explodes thinking about that.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think one of my friends, she's a project manager. And when she was doing her round of interviews, one of the guys who interviewed her, they just said this thing. And that's why this question, he said the same thing, that, just 20 years ago, when I was new to the business, we would just ask, and they are from the construction side, we would just go ask the consultant that, what is this? It was a lot simple to collaborate when we didn't have this technology. It was so simple to coordinate when we didn't have this technology. It's becoming more complicated. And I think she had a similar answer. She said that it depends who's using it and how they're using it. So I think that kind of sums up. And I feel even though you both are working on the different sides of the project, again, it's the technology that's bringing us together, and we will have to travel to solve those problems. And, it just saves everybody time and energy and money and all of that stuff. Because I always say that I'm one person who has a lot of friends, zero enemies. I don't think I have enemies right now at this point of my life, or people who disagree with me, because I've worked with architects, engineers, contractors, and I understand everybody's point of view. I think I'm making an overstatement by saying that this thing is going out in public. Well, let's see. But I've always heard consultants complaining and ranting about contractors not doing stuff on project, or not coordinating or collaborating the right way, or general contractors or trades saying that we didn't get so and so information from the consultants. And I do want to make it about, and I do not want to make it about consultants against contractors. And I know you cannot speak for everybody, you can only speak from your experience, but I'm pretty sure both of you, from all these years of experience, you do have some frequent rants, frequent peeves that you have for the other side. And let's start with Shawn this time. Do you have some pet peeves with the consultants?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll all probably have some pet peeves, but yeah, sure. I mean, to answer the question, I think it goes without saying, I guess the one that hits home constantly are work sets. We get a lot of models from designers, typically do we see work sets used? That's kind of the starting question. That's like one of the first things that we'll look at when we get a model, other than maybe shared coordinates and work sets off the bat. So when we open a model and we're like, all right, what work sets were used on this project? And, maybe you see like stairs 1, stairs 2, stairs 3. Hopefully it doesn't go on to stairs 10, but, and having been on the design side, I can really understand that. I don't see it as a pet peeve anymore. I actually kind of just see it as like, is there a chance I can educate on this at this point? Is there a chance I can share a work set document? Is there a chance I can have a training session? But it really used to bug me because, when we all worked together at IBI, we were all like taught, like, let's use work sets. It's so defined. We didn't have to invent a work set document. None of us did. We kind of just like had to implement it and monitor it. So I felt maybe like we were so used to getting like, we'll call the work sets in this case, like chocolate candy from like that special aunt or uncle that would come over all the time and here's your chocolate. So when I went over to the construction side, it's like, where's my chocolate? That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the chocolate. Mm-hmm. For anyone that might be watching, keep the chocolate hopefully coming if we're working on another project together. And yes, but work sets, I'll kind of leave it at that, Chetna. That's one of my.
I have heard a lot more. What about a non-software related pet peeve?
A non-software related pet peeve to the designers. That's a good question. I think the good one would be not willing to come to a construction coordination meeting ever. I think like it's a really good opportunity for a design member to come to a construction coordination meeting. I actually go out of my way to invite them in the pre-meeting to like make sure they can get onboarded the same way as everyone else before we kind of do the more formal and contractual kickoff. It just gives them a chance to like understand us a little better and like what is important for us and going through that presentation. So maybe it's not necessarily a pet peeve, but I think it would give us both a chance to understand and see different perspectives and get different insights, ultimately to help the project. And because we all work on the same projects together too. So, if Yigit's on my project and he comes in and gets a little bit insight of like what my struggles are and what I'm doing in my job, that might hit a light bulb for him next time when we work together. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember that's actually a big issue for Shawn, but not a big issue for me to solve to help him another time. So I would say willingness to attend construction coordination sessions. I think that would be a non-technology pet peeve, I guess.
Okay. We will have a rebuttal session after this. So, Yigit, I know you might be like, I want to answer that. But let's first talk about the pet peeves you have from the Shawn side of affairs, from the contractor side of affairs. And then we'll have a rebuttal and you guys will answer each other.
I'm not sure if this would be considered a pet peeve, but it really rubs me the wrong way when there is an ask or a project requirement. Actually, this isn't even just limited to GC. It can be clients, it can be our kind of sub-consultants, GC, like it doesn't really matter. It always rubs me the wrong way when there's an ask or a requirement that serves absolutely nothing. Literally, I mean, like, oh, we would like to have this, and just the way I deal with them usually is like I ask, okay, why? Like, what does this serve? And like, I kid you not, like I had cases where like there is just no answer. Like it can't be justified, and I'm like, well, why are you even asking for this in the first place? Like, it's really, I mean, Shawn actually kind of touched on a really nice point when we were talking about the technology. You should really think about not whether you could, but if you should, right? So there's definitely an infinite amount of possibilities, like things we can do with technology today, but it doesn't mean you should do that. You should do whatever is actually going to benefit the project. You have to be objective oriented. At the end of the day, all the time we're burning through, especially on the design side, means we're burning through money. We typically, get our fees based on how much time we will spend on a project. So we really have to be conscious about that. So yeah, naturally, when there's a requirement that's going to cause us like 200 hours of work, and I don't really see the point, I always kind of try to dig into it and see actually if this has any value. And if I ask the question and somebody comes back with an answer that makes a point that I haven't seen before, that's perfectly fine. I'm ready to be convinced that this is actually useful, but I've seen just too many cases where it's not.
Okay. So is there anything else? Is there a software related pet peeve that you have?
I would say general organization. This is like organizational issues, again, not really limited to GCs. Okay, we actually had a issue where GC was asking us to build like extremely long file names instead of using some sort of metadata. And we just had issues actually synchronizing them with OneDrive because we were hitting the 256 character limit.
Okay.
So just, that this is an organization problem, basically. And you can have similar things in Revit browser where, okay, here's my project browser, and here is all the views dumped into one place. That's partly because Revit's project browser is terrible too, but let's just get into that. Because
I would disagree with that. Revit's project browser is not bad. The person who uses that, if they don't know how to use it, then it becomes bad.
Here's the thing. However well you know to use it, it cannot separate your views, sheets, families, and every other damn thing in the model, right, is in one place. There is no need to do this ever. Like, you don't ever have to have them in one place. In fact, if I could have my sheets and view in different places, maybe I could just drag and drop a view to sheet from one window to the other, you see? So, and ArchiCAD already does this. So it's definitely under-designed, and it doesn't seem like they're looking at it at all.
Okay. Yeah. I think I don't want to make it me against Sheets right now. I just want you guys to fight over stuff right now. Okay. So let's have a rebuttal. Well, of course, this doesn't end here. We have only started looking at a few pet peeves from both sides. We need to hear all those defenses and explanations from the both sides. I assure you no one threw a punch. Or maybe they did. Also, see who wins the impossible questionnaire round. Tune in next week to listen in.